Admiral Jinho stood on the bridge of Seoul's Pride, staring at the view screen with cold eyes. The massive alien ships had appeared without warning, hanging above Earth like dark clouds before a storm. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Each one was 3 times larger than any human vessel ever built. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," said Lieutenant Borum, her hands shaking slightly as she worked the communications panel. Jinho nodded. "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was strange, translated by some alien technology into perfect Korean, English, Mandarin, and every other human language simultaneously. It spoke with absolute authority, the kind that expected no resistance. "People of Earth, we are the Galactic Council, representatives of the 12 ruling species of this galaxy. We have observed your world for 10 standard cycles. Your species has been evaluated. Under Galactic Law 7-441, you are hereby classified as a servitor species. You will submit to Council authority within 48 of your hours. Resistance will result in corrective measures. Compliance will ensure your survival." The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. Jinho felt something cold settle in his chest. Not fear. Anger. Pure, burning anger. He had spent 20 years in Earth's defense forces. He had fought in the Mars Rebellion. He had survived the asteroid belt wars. And now these aliens thought they could just show up and demand humanity's surrender? "Get me President Nari," he said quietly. On Earth's surface, President Nari sat in the emergency bunker beneath Geneva. The room was filled with military officers, scientists, and representatives from every nation on Earth. For the first time in human history, humanity truly stood united. Nothing brought people together quite like a common enemy. "They want us to be slaves," said General Hyun, his weathered face hard as stone. "They actually think we'll just bow down and accept it." Dr. Sora, the head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Division, looked up from her tablet. "Our analysis shows their ships use energy shields we can't penetrate with conventional weapons. Their smallest fighters could destroy an entire city. Madam President, we need to be realistic about this." "Realistic?" Nari stood up, her voice sharp. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall. But when she spoke, everyone listened. "They came to our home. They threatened our children. And you want me to be realistic?" She walked to the communications terminal. "Open a channel. Broadcast it to every council ship, every satellite, every radio and television on Earth." The technician's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Channel open, Madam President." Nari looked directly into the camera. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with fierce determination. "To the Galactic Council. This is President Nari of Earth. You have made a grave mistake. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not surrender. And humanity will never be anyone's slaves. Our answer is no. If you want to make us fight, then we will fight. But know this, you will regret ever coming to our world." She paused, then said one more thing in English, slow and clear. "No. 1. The word echoed across every frequency in the solar system. Colonel Hyun watched the alien ships through his binoculars. 3 of them were descending toward Seoul. Landing gear extended. They thought they could just land their troops and take over. They thought humans would be easy. Hyun smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. "All units, hold your fire until they're on the ground," he said into his radio. "Let them think we're scared. Let them think we're weak." The alien ships touched down in the middle of the city. The civilian population had been evacuated hours ago, leaving only Hyun's soldiers hidden in buildings, underground tunnels, and rooftops. 2,000 of humanity's best fighters, waiting in silence. The landing ramps lowered. The aliens emerged tall, armored creatures, with 4 arms and faces hidden behind gleaming helmets. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. There were at least 500 of them, moving in perfect formation. Their commander raised one hand, and they began marching toward the government district. They moved with confidence, with certainty. They had done this before on other worlds. "Now," Hyun whispered. The streets exploded, Hidden mines detonated beneath alien feet, missiles streaked from rooftops, machine gun fire erupted from windows. The aliens' shields flickered and held, but the sheer volume of fire made them stagger. The aliens returned fire, their energy weapons cutting through concrete and steel. But Hune's troops were already moving, using the city itself as a weapon. They collapsed buildings onto alien positions. They flooded subway tunnels while aliens were inside. They fought with a ferocity that made the aliens hesitate. In orbit, Admiral Jinho watched the Council fleet begin to move. They were angry now. They were preparing to bombard the city from space. "Sir, we can't stop them all," said Commander Inho, sweat beading on his forehead. "We have 40 ships. They have 400. Then we make every shot count," Jinho replied. He opened a channel to his fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Jinho. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. We didn't ask for this fight, but we'll finish it. Target their command ships. Fire everything we have." Soul's Pride lurched forward, its engines burning bright. The rest of the human fleet followed destroyers, frigates, and converted civilian ships armed with whatever weapons they could carry. They were outmatched, outgunned, and outnumbered, but they were human. And humans had never known when to quit. The first missiles struck a Council cruiser's shields. The shields held, but cracks appeared. More missiles followed, then railgun rounds moving at incredible speeds. The cruiser's shields failed, and the ship itself began to burn. The Council fleet scrambled to respond. They had expected easy prey. Instead, they found themselves in a real battle. Young Minho worked frantically in the engineering section of Soul's Pride. He was just a maintenance technician, barely 22 years old, but he had noticed something important while reviewing the sensor data from the Council ships. "Sir," he called to the chief engineer. "Their shields, they all pulse at the same frequency. They're linked together somehow." "So what?" the engineer snapped, too busy keeping the ship's weapons online. "So if we can match that frequency, we might be able to pass through their shields. Or better yet, disrupt them all at once." The engineer stopped and looked at Minho. Really looked at him. Then he grabbed the young man's shoulder. "Get that data to the Admiral. Right now." As Earth's first day of war ended, fires burned across Sol. The alien landing force had been forced to retreat, leaving behind dozens of their dead. In orbit, 3 Council ships drifted as burning wrecks, while the human fleet regrouped. In the Council's command ship, the speaker stood before a holographic display of the battle. His 3 eyes narrowed in confusion and growing concern. "This should have been simple," he said to his advisors. "How are they fighting back? How are they doing so much damage with such primitive technology?" One advisor, an old warrior from a conquered species, spoke carefully. "Perhaps we underestimated them, Speaker. Perhaps these humans are more dangerous than we thought." The speaker's mandibles clicked in anger. "They are primitives. They have barely left their own star system. Increase the fleet presence. Prepare orbital bombardment. They will learn to obey." But deep in the speaker's mind, a small seed of doubt had been planted. These humans were not like other species the Council had conquered. These humans fought with something the Council hadn't seen in centuries. They fought with fury born of freedom. And fury, the speaker would soon learn, was humanity's most dangerous weapon. Dr. Sora stood in the deep underground facility that didn't officially exist. The cavern stretched for miles beneath the Pacific Ocean floor, carved out over 20 years by machines and human hands working in absolute secrecy. Above her head, suspended in massive cradles, hung 500 warships. President Nari walked beside her, eyes wide with shock. "How long has this been here?" "Since first contact," Sora replied calmly. "When we detected the first alien probe entering our solar system 15 years ago, some of us realized we needed insurance. We called it Project Ghost Fleet. Every ship here is equipped with stealth technology reverse-engineered from that probe. The Council doesn't know we have them." "Can they fight?" Sora smiled. It was not a kind smile. They were built for only one purpose. On Mars, Tejo crouched in the red dust. watching Council dropships land near Olympus Colony. The aliens had seized the colony 3 days ago, expecting the 10,000 human settlers to surrender peacefully. Instead, the settlers had vanished into the vast tunnel networks beneath the Martian surface. Now, Tejo and his resistance fighters prepared their first strike. "Remember," he whispered to the 20 fighters beside him, "we hit fast and disappear. We're not trying to win battles. We're trying to make them afraid." The aliens had set up a command post in the colony's main dome. 50 soldiers guarded it, their sensors sweeping for threats. They didn't find the tunnels that opened directly beneath them. Tejo's team emerged like ghosts. Explosives planted days ago detonated simultaneously, collapsing entire sections of the dome. In the chaos, humans struck with captured alien weapons, targeting communications equipment and officers. 30 seconds later, they vanished back into the tunnels. The aliens never even saw their faces. In a secret facility on Earth's moon, Una sat surrounded by quantum computers and holographic displays. As head of Earth's intelligence division, she had been intercepting alien communications for a decade. Now, all that patience was paying off. "We have access to their entire network," she told Admiral Jinho over a secured channel. "Every ship, every command code, every tactical plan. They've been talking for thousands of years and never thought to encrypt their communications. They were too arrogant to imagine anyone could understand their language." Jinho's face showed rare surprise. "You can hear everything they say? Everything. And Jinho, there's more. The Council isn't as united as they pretend. At least 4 member species are unhappy with this war. They didn't vote for it. They were outvoted by the dominant species. If we can reach them, if we can show them Earth will win, they might switch sides." "Get me a list of their ships and commanders," Jinho said. "It's time to start talking to our future allies." The Battle of Luna came without warning. The Council sent 100 ships to destroy Earth's moon bases, expecting easy targets. Instead, they found Admiral Jinho waiting with the entire human fleet, reinforced by the first elements of the Ghost Fleet. Captain Day sat in the cockpit of the experimental ship Defiant, his hands steady on the controls. The ship was unlike anything else in the human fleet, built using stolen alien technology and human innovation. It could move faster, hit harder, and survive longer than anything the Council had ever seen. "Ghost Fleet is launching," came the report over his radio. 500 ships entering combat range. The Council's formation broke apart in confusion as human ships appeared from nowhere, their stealth systems deactivating only at the moment of firing. Missiles and railgun rounds tore through unprepared alien shields. The Council tried to respond, but their tactics assumed they would see their enemies before being attacked. Day brought Defiant screaming through the center of the alien formation, weapons blazing. He targeted their command ship's shield generators with precision strikes, each shot guided by Minho's frequency analysis. The shields flickered, failed, and exploded. The Council fleet broke and ran. Hana sat across from the alien ambassador in the neutral station between Jupiter and Saturn. The ambassador was from the Pelthani species, one of the less aggressive members of the Council. His 6 eyes watched her with a mix of curiosity and fear. "Your people are making a terrible mistake," Hana said calmly. "The Council told you humans would surrender easily. Were they right?" The ambassador's translation device clicked and hummed. "No. Your species fights with unexpected determination." "Determination?" Hana leaned forward. "We call it survival. The Council declared us slaves. We responded the only way we could. But this isn't your war, Ambassador. Your people didn't vote for this. You were forced into it by the dominant species." The ambassador's eyes flickered nervously. "I cannot speak of internal Council matters." "You can speak of this," Hana said, sliding a data chip across the table. "Communication intercepts. Battle records. Proof that the Council leadership lied to your people about Earth's capabilities. Proof that they're willing to sacrifice your ships and soldiers for their pride. Your people deserve to know the truth." The ambassador stared at the chip like it was a bomb. In a way, it was. Back on Earth, President Nari addressed a joint session of the unified government. Every screen on the planet showed her face. 3 weeks ago, the Council told us to surrender. Today, they're the ones running. We've destroyed 200 of their ships. We've liberated Mars. We've proven that humanity will not bow. But this is just the beginning. The Council rules over 100 worlds through fear and force. They thought they could add us to that list. Instead, we're going to tear that list apart. The chamber erupted in applause, but Nari raised her hand for silence. This will not be easy. This will not be quick. Many of us will not live to see the end. But our children will grow up free. And that is worth any price. In his command center, General Hyun studied reports from guerrilla actions across the solar system. Every asteroid base, every mining station, every human settlement had become a fortress. The Council controlled nothing except the space their ships occupied, and even that was temporary. They're bringing in reinforcements, his aide reported. 500 more ships en route from Council space. Hyun nodded. Let them come. Every ship they send here is a ship they can't use to control their other territories. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting to free the entire galaxy. Dr. Sora unveiled her next surprise at a demonstration for the military command. On the test range, a swarm of tiny machines, each no bigger than a fist, moved in perfect coordination. They flowed like liquid metal, forming shapes and structures in seconds. Nanite swarms, she explained. Self-replicating, programmable machines. They can repair damaged ships in minutes, or tear apart enemy vessels from the inside. We release them near a Council ship, they attach to the hull, and start disassembling it molecule by molecule. How many can you make? Asked Jinho. Billions. They make themselves. We just need raw materials. And space has plenty of those. Young Minho had become something of a celebrity among the fleet engineers. His discovery of the shield frequency weakness had saved dozens of human ships. Now he worked with a team developing new weapons specifically designed to exploit Council vulnerabilities. They have powerful shields but weak armor underneath, he explained to a group of scientists. They've relied on those shields for so long, they forgot to protect themselves from weapons that can bypass them. If we can get inside their shields even for a second, we can destroy their ships easily. How do we get inside the shields? Someone asked. Minho grinned. We've been working on that. What if I told you we can make our missiles look like space debris to their sensors? They won't shoot at it, and the shields won't stop it because they're programmed to let small objects through. In space near Titan, Captain Day led a raid on a Council supply depot. His squadron of 20 ships struck fast, destroying fuel containers and ammunition stores. The Council responded with overwhelming force, sending 3 cruisers to crush the human raiders. But Day had learned from Admiral Jinho. He didn't fight fair. His ships scattered in every direction, leading the cruisers into the rings of Saturn. The thick ice and rock made sensors useless. The Council ships fired blindly, while human fighters darted between them like angry hornets, each attack drawing blood. By the time the Council ships realized the trap, it was too late. Hidden among the rocks were magnetic mines. Deployed during Earth's early exploration missions, the mines activated, latching onto Council hulls and detonating. 2 cruisers died in silent explosions. The 3rd fled. That night, Jinho received a coded message from Hana. 3 Council species had agreed to secret negotiations. They wanted out of the war. They wanted peace with humanity. The galaxy was changing, and the Council was beginning to realize that enslaving Earth had been the worst decision in their 1,000-year history. On the Council homeworld, the speaker stood before the gathered representatives, trying to maintain control. But doubt filled the chamber like poison gas. The humans continue to resist, one representative said coldly. How many more ships must we lose before you admit this was a mistake? They are primitives, the speaker insisted. We will crush them. Will we? Another voice asked. Or will they crush us? The question hung in the air, unanswered. The Council's fortress world of Drun hung in space like a jewel, protected by defensive satellites and energy shields that had never been breached. It had stood for 500 years, symbol of Council power and invincibility. Admiral Jinho planned to destroy it in one day. Operation Hornet's Nest is ready, Commander Inho reported. All volunteer ships are in position. Jinho looked at the tactical display showing 3,000 small craft-converted mining ships, personal shuttles, racing vessels, anything that could mount a weapon and carry a pilot. Each one was crewed by volunteers who knew they probably wouldn't return. Behind them waited the main fleet, ready to exploit whatever opening the volunteers created. "Launch operation," Jinho ordered quietly. The swarm hit Drun's defenses like a tidal wave. The satellites and automated turrets opened fire, destroying hundreds of small ships in seconds. But for every ship destroyed, 5 more got through. They didn't try to fight the defenses. They simply rushed past them, accepting terrible losses to reach their targets. The volunteers aimed for the shield generators on the planet's surface. Each small ship became a kinetic missile, slamming into the generators at incredible speeds. The shields flickered and died in sections as generators overloaded. 2,000 volunteers died in 10 minutes. But the shields fell. "Main fleet, attack," Jinho commanded. Far away on Earth's moon, Yuna watched her screens with fierce concentration. The virus she had created 6 months ago was finally ready. It would spread through the Council's quantum communication network, hidden inside normal traffic until activated. Then it would corrupt navigation systems, weapons targeting, and sensor arrays across the entire Council fleet. "Uploading now," she said to her team. "Once it's in their network, we'll have complete chaos." The virus traveled at the speed of light, jumping from ship to ship through the quantum links that connected the entire Council military. Within an hour, it had infected 70% of their active vessels. Yuna activated it with a single keystroke. In orbit around Drun, Council ships suddenly found their weapons targeting their own allies. Navigation systems showed false positions. Sensors reported enemies that didn't exist. Commanders screamed contradictory orders as their ships drifted out of formation. The human fleet tore through them like a knife through paper. Hana stood on the bridge of the diplomatic ship Unity, watching 3 Council species formally sign the accord. The Pelthani, the Vothrax, and the Kindreen had officially withdrawn from the Council and declared neutrality in the war. It wasn't much, but it was a start. "This is historic," the Pelthani ambassador said, his translation device giving his words weight. "For the first time in 1,000 years, species are defying the Council. You have shown us that their power is not absolute." "We've shown you something else," Hana replied. "We've shown you that freedom is worth fighting for. The Council only has power because you give it to them. Take it back." The Vothrax commander clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "There are others who feel as we do. Species who joined the Council out of fear, not loyalty. If humanity continues to win, more will defect. Then we'll make sure to keep winning," Hana promised. Dr. Sora stood in the test chamber, watching her latest creation with pride. The antimatter containment pods were small enough to fit on a fighter craft but powerful enough to destroy a Council cruiser with a single hit. The problem had always been keeping antimatter stable, but Sora's team had solved it using exotic matter harvested from Council ships. "How many can we produce?" Admiral Jinho asked via video link. "Thousands per month," Sora replied. "But there's more. I've developed weapons the Council has never seen. Gravity disruptors that can crush ships from inside. Plasma lances that can cut through any armor. And something we're calling the Avalanche." "What's the Avalanche?" Sora smiled. "You know how Council ships rely on energy shields? The Avalanche is a weapon that feeds on energy. The more power they pump into their shields, the stronger the Avalanche becomes. It turns their greatest defense into a weapon against them." On Mars, Tejo's resistance had grown from 20 fighters to 2,000. They controlled the tunnel networks completely, emerging at will to strike Council forces. The aliens had given up trying to occupy the surface colonies and retreated to fortified bases. But Tejo wasn't satisfied with just defending Mars. He wanted to free it completely. "We've captured enough weapons and equipment to arm 5,000 fighters," he told his commanders in the underground meeting hall. "And we have allies arriving from Earth, 3 regiments of colonial marines. It's time to take back our world." The coordinated assault began at dawn. Resistance fighters emerged from tunnels beneath every Council base simultaneously. Orbital strikes from the human fleet disabled the alien ships before they could provide air support. Colonial marines dropped from the sky in assault pods, The Battle of Mars lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the red planet belonged to humanity again. Captain Day guided Defiant through the debris field that had once been a Council supply convoy. His ship had been upgraded with every piece of alien technology humanity could reverse engineer. It was faster than any Council vessel, more maneuverable, and armed with weapons that terrified the enemy. "Admiral Jinho wants you back at Earth," his communications officer reported. "There's a special mission." "What kind of mission?" "The kind where you might not come back." Day smiled. He liked those missions. When he arrived at Earth, Admiral Jinho explained the plan. The Council's new superweapon, a massive vessel that could destroy a planet with a single shot, was nearly complete. Intelligence suggested it would be operational within weeks. "We need to destroy it before it's finished," Jinho said. "But it's protected by the Council's most powerful fleet. We'll provide a distraction, but someone needs to get close enough to plant antimatter charges inside the reactor. The shields and armor are too strong for external attack." "You want me to fly inside an enemy superweapon and blow it up?" Day said flatly. "Yes. Alone? You'll have Defiant. It's the only ship fast enough and small enough to have a chance." Day thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "When do I leave?" Young Minho had become indispensable to the war effort. His understanding of Council technology was unmatched, even by the scientists who had studied it for years. Now he stood before the military council, presenting his most audacious idea yet. "The Council's quantum network connects all their ships," he explained. Holographic displays floating around him. "We've already proven we can hack it. But what if we could do more? What if we could take control of their ships remotely?" "Is that possible?" President Nari asked. "I think so. Their security is terrible because they never imagined anyone could access their systems. If we can upload the right code, we could turn their own fleet against them." General Hyun leaned forward. "How long would you need?" "Give me 2 months and access to a captured Council ship. I'll give you the keys to their entire navy." The siege of Prime, the Council's homeworld, began with a message from Admiral Jinho, broadcast across all frequencies. "People of the Council, your leaders declared war on Earth without justification. They told you we would surrender easily. They told you we were primitives who couldn't fight. They lied. Look at your fleet half destroyed. Look at your empire fracturing. Look at your superweapon, a ball of fire where it used to be. We didn't ask for this war, but we will finish it. Surrender now, and we will show mercy. Continue fighting, and we will show you what humanity does to tyrants." The Council refused. The battle that followed was the largest space engagement in galactic history. 5,000 Council ships faced 3,000 human vessels and their alien allies. The space around Prime became a storm of missiles, energy beams, and exploding ships. But humanity had learned much in 6 months of war. They fought with tactics the Council had never seen: ships working in coordinated swarms, sacrificing themselves to kill larger vessels, using captured Council weapons against their creators. Most importantly, they fought with a fury born of defending their freedom. Commander Rena, who had started the war as a civilian hacker, now commanded a squadron of cyber warfare ships. They fired no weapons. Instead, they broadcast Minho's virus continuously, corrupting every Council system they could reach. Enemy ships turned on each other. Targeting systems failed at critical moments. Life support shut down randomly. "Technology without security is just a weapon waiting to be turned around," Rena said to her crew. "And we're really good at turning things around." The Battle of Prime lasted 3 days. When it ended, the Council fleet was shattered. Their homeworld was surrounded. Their superweapon was destroyed, and their member species were abandoning them in droves. In the Council's throne room, the Speaker faced his remaining advisors. Only 3 species still supported the war. The rest had either defected or declared neutrality. "We underestimated them," the old warrior advisor said quietly. "We thought they were like all the others, weak, divided, ready to submit. We were wrong. These humans fight like nothing we've ever seen. They fight as if every single one of them would rather die than surrender." The Speaker's mandibles clicked in frustration and growing fear. "What do they want? Tribute? Territory? We can negotiate. They want us to stand trial, another advisor interrupted. They want justice for the species we've conquered. They want to tear down everything the Council has built. Then we fight to the end, the speaker declared. But in his heart, he knew the truth. The war was already over. Humanity had won. Far away, Jinho sat in his quarters, looking at a picture of his family. They were safe now. Rescued from Council captivity by a special operations team, his daughter had joined the resistance and fought with courage that made him proud and terrified in equal measure. We're winning. But at what cost? He whispered to the empty room. His communications panel beeped. President Nari's face appeared. The Council wants to negotiate, she said. They're ready to surrender. Jinho nodded slowly. Then let's make sure this is the last time anyone tries to enslave humanity. The negotiations took place on a neutral station orbiting a dead star, far from any military presence. President Nari sat across from what remained of the Council's leadership, 5 species out of the original 12. The others had already abandoned the failing empire. You want our unconditional surrender, the Council speaker said through his translator. His voice carried defeat and bitterness. You want to dismantle everything we built over 1,000 years. No, Nari replied calmly. We want you to answer for your crimes. Every species you enslaved, every world you conquered, every life you destroyed, all of it will be judged, not by us alone, but by all the people you hurt. And if we refuse? Admiral Jinho, standing behind Nari, spoke for the first time. Then we continue the war, until there's nothing left of the Council but memories and wreckage. Your choice. The speaker's mandibles clicked in what might have been despair. He knew they had no choice at all. Across the galaxy, the news of the Council's impending surrender spread like wildfire. On 100 enslaved worlds, populations rose up against their overseers. The Council's soldiers, knowing their empire was finished, laid down their weapons or fled. Some tried to fight, but without support from the homeworld, they were quickly overwhelmed. Hana found herself leading a diplomatic corps of 300 humans and friendly aliens, visiting these liberated worlds. Each one presented unique challenges. On the mining world of Kelth 7, the native population had been enslaved for 2 centuries. They spoke of freedom with confusion and fear, having known nothing else for generations. What do we do now? Their leader asked Hana, his tentacles trembling. The Council gave us orders. They told us what to do. Without them, we don't know how to live. Hana felt her heart break a little. You learn. You make mistakes. You grow. That's what freedom means, the right to choose your own path. Even if you sometimes choose wrong, we'll help you, but we won't rule you. Those days are over for everyone. On the warrior world of Drex, the population greeted the human liberators with weapons drawn. They had been bred for battle, used as the Council's shock troops for generations. They saw humanity's victory as simply a change in masters. General Hyun, who had come to Drex personally, stood before their war chiefs without fear. We're not here to rule you. We're here to offer you a choice. Keep fighting as mercenaries, or learn to live in peace. Either way, you're free. The largest war chief, a creature twice Hyun's size with 4 arms and scales like armor, laughed. Peace? We know only war. That is what we are. Then you're prisoners of your own nature. Hyun replied. The Council made you into weapons, but you're more than that. I've seen your art, your poetry, your music. You have a culture beyond war. Maybe it's time to remember that. The war chief's laughter died. He looked at Hyun with something like respect. You are a strange people, humans. You fight like demons but speak of peace and culture. We will consider your words. Taeho led the Mars Liberation Army to the world of Voss Prime, where 50,000 humans had been taken as slaves during the war. The Council had planned to use them as hostages, bargaining chips in future negotiations. Instead, they became liabilities as the empire collapsed. The rescue mission turned into a battle when local council loyalists tried to execute the prisoners rather than release them. Tejo's forces stormed the detention centers with fury that terrified even their alien allies. No human prisoners were harmed, but the loyalists learned why you should never threaten a human's family. Among the freed prisoners was Admiral Jinho's daughter, Minji. She was thinner than her father remembered, with new scars and harder eyes. But she was alive. When Jinho arrived at the liberated prison camp, Minji stood among the other freed prisoners. Father and daughter stared at each other for a long moment, then collapsed into an embrace. Both wept, something Admiral Jinho had not done since childhood. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I should have protected you." "You did, Dad," Minji replied. "You freed us all." Dr. Sora's scientific teams worked around the clock, not building weapons this time but healing tools. Worlds damaged by Council strip mining needed terraforming. Populations suffering from genetic manipulation required medical treatment. Ecosystems, destroyed by industrial exploitation, needed restoration. "We broke their empire," Sora told her staff. "Now we have to help rebuild what they destroyed. It's going to take decades, maybe centuries. But we started this, and we'll see it through." Young Minho, now officially the youngest fleet admiral in human history at age 23, commanded a task force hunting down the last Council loyalists. Small pockets of resistance still fought across the galaxy, refusing to accept that their empire was dead. In one system, he found a Council battle group preparing to bombard a rebellious colony. Minho's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly in their path. "Council ships, this is Admiral Minho of the Earth Federation. Your empire is finished. Your leadership has surrendered. Stand down immediately, or face destruction." The Council commander responded with plasma fire. Minho sighed. "Some people never learn. All ships, weapons free. Show them why you don't threaten human colonies." The battle was brief and brutal. Minho's forces used every trick humanity had developed during the war. When it ended, the Council battle group was debris, and the colony was saved. But Minho took no pleasure in it. He was tired of killing. They all were. Commander Rena had become humanity's expert on Council technology and cybersecurity. Now, she led teams working to secure the vast data networks that had controlled the Council's empire. What they found in those records horrified even the most battle-hardened soldiers. "They kept records of everything," she reported to President Nari. "Every species they conquered, every atrocity they committed, every slave they took. It's all here. And it's worse than we imagined. They didn't just enslave people, they systematically destroyed cultures, erased histories, and bred entire species for specific purposes. They treated intelligent beings like livestock." "Can we use these records for the trials?" Nari asked. "Yes. We have evidence of crimes going back 500 years. Some of the Council members were personally responsible for the extinction of entire species. The war crimes trials began on Earth, in a specially constructed facility that could accommodate beings of all sizes and environments. The defendants, Council leaders, military commanders, and officials who had carried out their orders stood accused of crimes against sapient beings. The proceedings were broadcast across the galaxy. Every liberated species watched as their oppressors finally faced justice. The testimony was devastating. Former slaves described generations of suffering. Survivors spoke of worlds destroyed and families torn apart. Scientists presented evidence of systematic genetic modification, forced breeding programs, and medical experiments. Through it all, President Nari presided with stern fairness. "This is not revenge," she declared. "This is justice. We will not become like the Council. We will not punish the innocent or act out of hatred. But neither will we allow these crimes to go unanswered." Some Council members showed remorse. They testified against their leaders, revealing secrets and admitting their roles in atrocities. Others remained defiant to the end, insisting they had done nothing wrong. The verdicts came slowly, carefully. Some defendants received life imprisonment. Others were executed for crimes too terrible to forgive. A few, Those who had tried to stop the worst abuses received lighter sentences. Through it all, humanity showed the galaxy what true justice looked like. Captain Day returned from his mission against the superweapon to find himself a hero. The recording of his ship diving into the heart of the massive vessel, planting antimatter charges while fighting off defenders, had been broadcast across human space. He had escaped with seconds to spare, his ship badly damaged but intact. Now he stood before crowds of cheering civilians, uncomfortable with the attention. "I just did my job," he kept saying. But no one listened. What Day didn't tell anyone was how close he'd come to not escaping. His ship had been hit multiple times. Life support had failed. For 10 minutes, he'd flown through vacuum, suit systems barely keeping him alive. He had been certain he would die. "Why did you take the mission?" a reporter asked him. Day thought about it. Because someone had to. Because if that weapon had been completed, it would have killed billions. Because sometimes doing your job means putting everything on the line. "That's what soldiers do," the reporter pressed. "But you're a hero." "I'm a guy who got lucky," Day interrupted. "The real heroes are the ones who didn't come home. Remember them, not me." Far from Earth, on a small agricultural world called Pelth, something remarkable was happening. Humans and aliens worked side by side, rebuilding what the war had destroyed. Former enemies shared meals and stories. Children of different species played together without fear. An old Pelthani farmer, who had fought against humans during the early days of the war, stood beside a human engineer named Quan. They were repairing an irrigation system together. "I hated you once," the farmer admitted. "I thought you were monsters coming to destroy us." Quan smiled sadly. "We thought the same about you. Funny how war makes everyone into monsters. Until you actually meet each other." "What do you think now?" "I think we're all just people trying to survive. The council used us against each other, but we don't have to stay enemies." The farmer's tentacles rippled in agreement. "My grandchildren play with human children now. They don't see aliens. They just see friends. Maybe that's how we build a better future. One friendship at a time." As the first year of peace approached, President Nari stood before the United Galactic Assembly, a new organization formed from the ashes of the Council. Representatives from 200 species filled the chamber, all equals under the new charter. "We have seen what tyranny brings," Nari said to the Assembly. "We have paid the price of freedom in blood and sacrifice. Now we must build something better. Not an empire ruled by fear, but a federation based on cooperation. Not a council of masters and slaves, but a democracy of equals." She paused, looking out at the diverse crowd. "This will not be easy. We come from different worlds, different cultures, different ways of thinking. We will disagree. We will argue. Sometimes we will fail. But we will do it together, as free people working toward a common future." The chamber erupted in applause, tentacles, claws, hands, and appendages of all kinds joining together in approval. The war was over. The real work was just beginning. 10 years after the war, Earth looked different. The scars of battle had healed, replaced by monuments to the fallen and museums dedicated to ensuring no one forgot what freedom cost. But the biggest changes were invisible. Humanity had grown up. Admiral Jinho, now retired from active military service, sat in his study writing the final chapter of his war memoir. Through the window, he could see his grandchildren playing in the garden. They had been born after the war, growing up in a galaxy where humans and aliens lived as neighbors. His daughter Minji entered, carrying tea. She had refused to let her time as a prisoner define her, instead becoming a counselor helping other war survivors heal from trauma. "How's the book coming?" she asked. Jinho set down his pen. "I'm trying to explain why we fought. Why we refused to surrender when the smart thing might have been to negotiate. But words feel inadequate. Tell them the truth," Minji said simply. "We fought because the alternative was to stop being human. To stop being free. Some things are worth dying for." President Nari, serving her final term, stood before the Galactic Federation Council for the last time as Earth's leader. The council chamber was nothing like the old building where the tyrannical empire had ruled. This was a circular space where every species had equal seats, Equal votes, equal voices. When I took this office 15 years ago, Nari said, I never imagined I'd be standing here. I certainly never imagined I'd be declaring war on an ancient empire. But life surprises us. The question is what we do with those surprises. She looked around at the assembled representatives. Humanity could have become the next empire. We had the weapons, the technology, the battle-hardened military. Many expected us to simply replace the Council as galactic overlords. But we chose a different path. We chose to build rather than dominate. And look what we've built together. The chamber filled with sounds of approval from hundreds of different species. My successor will continue this work, Nari continued. But I want to leave you with one thought. Freedom is not a gift, it's a responsibility. Every day, every one of you must choose to be free, to act with justice, to treat others with dignity. The moment we forget that, the moment we become comfortable with tyranny, even small tyrannies, we begin the slide back toward the darkness we escaped. After the speech, Nari returned to her private quarters where Hana was waiting. The diplomat had become one of Nari's closest friends during the war years. That was a good speech, Hana said. It was a necessary one, Nari replied, suddenly looking tired. I see the warning signs, Hana. Some species want Earth to lead. They want us to make decisions for them. They want a strong protector. And that's exactly what the Council was, Hana finished. A strong protector that slowly became a prison. So how do we prevent it? We keep saying no. We keep insisting on democracy even when it's messy and slow. We trust people to govern themselves, even when they make mistakes. Hana smiled. Besides, I think humanity is too stubborn to ever accept being rulers. We barely like being ruled ourselves. Dr. Sora walked through the restoration gardens on the rebuilt Mars colony. Once barren red dust, the terraforming project had turned large sections of Mars green with imported vegetation and carefully engineered ecosystems. Alien plants grew alongside Earth species, creating something entirely new. Beautiful, isn't it? Said her companion. A Pelthany scientist named Volth, who had worked with Sora for 8 years. It is, Sora agreed. But I keep thinking about what we destroyed to create this peace. Entire Council fleets. Millions of lives. Sometimes I wonder if there was a better way. There wasn't, Volth said gently. My people tried the peaceful way. We negotiated. We compromised. We bent the knee. And we spent 300 years as slaves. Sometimes violence is the only answer to violence. You taught the galaxy that. And what did that lesson cost? Everything. And it was worth it. Young Minho, no longer young at 32, commanded the exploration fleet. His mission was to venture beyond the old Council territories, seeking new civilizations and ensuring humanity never again faced an unknown threat, unprepared. His ship, the Discovery, encountered a species that had just achieved faster than light travel. They were peaceful, curious, and terribly vulnerable. Should we make contact? His first officer asked. Minho thought about it carefully. Yes. But we do it slowly, carefully, and we let them set the pace. We share technology only when they ask for it. We offer friendship, not dominance, and we never, ever make them feel threatened. That's a lot different than how the Council operated. Exactly. We learned from their mistakes. Now we teach others not to make them too. The trial of the final Council speaker concluded in the 12th year after the war. He had been found guilty of genocide, enslavement, and crimes against sapient beings. The sentence was death. But something unexpected happened. Representatives from 20 liberated species petitioned for mercy, arguing that keeping him alive to face what he'd done was a harsher punishment than death. President Nari's successor, President Sung, granted the petition. The speaker would live, imprisoned on a barren world, with only recordings of his victims' testimony for company. He would spend the rest of his long life confronting his crimes. Is this justice or cruelty? Someone asked Sung. It's both, Sung replied. And perhaps that's appropriate. His victims suffered for lifetimes. Why should his punishment be brief? Captain Day had become an instructor at the new Galactic Federation Military Academy. He taught tactics, strategy, and the philosophy of warfare to students from dozens of species. The first rule, he told his class, is that violence should always be your last option. The second rule is that when violence becomes necessary, you must be absolutely committed to winning. Half measures get people killed. A young alien student raised one tentacle. But humans are famous for never surrendering. Isn't that reckless? There's a difference between reckless and determined, Day replied. Reckless means fighting without thinking. Determined means fighting smart, fighting hard, and never giving up even when things look hopeless. The council thought we were reckless. They learned the difference the hard way. Another student asked, "Would you do it again? Fight the war? Risk everything?" Day looked out the window at the stars. Every single day of that war, I was terrified. I saw friends die. I nearly died myself a dozen times, but if I had to choose again, knowing everything I know now, he turned back to the class. Yes, I'd do it again. Freedom is worth fighting for. Always. General Hyun had retired to a small farm on Earth, growing vegetables and writing military treatises that were studied across the galaxy. But occasionally, he consulted on difficult situations. When a newly liberated species began fighting civil war, unable to agree on how to govern themselves, Hyun traveled there personally. He met with faction leaders, listening to their grievances and their hopes. "You're all making the same mistake," he told them finally. "You think freedom means getting everything you want. It doesn't. Freedom means having the right to disagree, to compromise, to build something together even when you don't agree on everything. The council took away your voices. Now you have them back. Use them to talk, not fight. But they want things we cannot accept," one leader protested. "Then find something you can accept," Hyun replied. "Democracy is about finding common ground. It's messy, frustrating, and slow. But it works better than anything else we've tried. Trust me, I've seen the alternatives." Commander Rena ran the Galactic Federation's cybersecurity division, protecting the new government from threats, digital and otherwise. Her team had stopped 17 attempted coups, 32 assassination plots, and countless hacking attempts. "Do you ever regret it?" her deputy asked one day. "Winning the war, I mean? Now we have to deal with all this chaos." "Never," Rena said firmly. "Chaos means people are free to make their own choices, even bad ones. The alternative was order imposed by force. I'll take chaos over tyranny any day." On the 15th anniversary of the war's end, a grand ceremony was held at the Memorial to the Fallen. The monument stretched for miles, carved with the names of every human and alien who had died fighting for freedom. Millions of names. Too many names. Admiral Jinho, now quite old, stood before the memorial with tears running down his weathered face. So many people he had known, had commanded, had sent to their deaths. All of them remembered here. Minji stood beside him, holding his hand. "They didn't die for nothing. Dad." "I know," Jinho whispered, "but knowing doesn't make it hurt less." President Sung gave the memorial speech. "These people died so others could live free. They came from 100 worlds, spoke 1,000 languages, believed in countless gods and philosophies, but they shared one thing, the conviction that freedom was worth dying for. We honor them not with sadness, but with the promise that we will never let their sacrifice be forgotten. We will never allow tyranny to rise again. We will guard the freedom they won with their lives." That evening, representatives from across the galaxy gathered for a more informal celebration. Humans and aliens mingled freely, sharing food, stories, and laughter. Children played together without fear. Old soldiers embraced former enemies who had become friends. Taeho, now head of the Mars government, raised a glass. "To the future. May it be better than our past." "To the future," everyone echoed. Far away, on the edge of known space, Minho's discovery made first contact with a new civilization. They were cautious but curious, emerging from their world with wonder and trepidation. Minho greeted them with open hands and a warm smile. "Hello. We're explorers from the Galactic Federation. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. What can we learn from each other?" The aliens hesitated, then approached. Another friendship began. Another species joined the free galaxy. 25 years after the war, Admiral Jinho died peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by family. He was buried with full military honors, his name added to the memorial alongside those he had commanded. At his funeral, President Emeritus Nari spoke. "Jinho once told me that he fought not because he loved war, but because he loved freedom. He understood something fundamental about humanity. We will endure any hardship, face any enemy, pay any price to remain free." That knowledge terrified the Council. It inspired the galaxy. And it changed everything. She paused, looking out at the massive crowd. "Jinho's generation saved us all. Now it's our responsibility to prove they didn't die in vain. To build the galaxy they dreamed of. To ensure that no species ever suffers what the Council inflicted." Minji scattered her father's ashes among the stars he had defended. As she watched them drift away, glittering in the starlight, she smiled through tears. Her children asked, "Why are you smiling, Mom?" "Because Grandpa would be so proud of what we've become. We're not just survivors anymore. We're builders. We're teachers. We're friends to 100 species. And we're free." 30 years after the war, a young alien child stood in a museum, looking at the holographic displays showing the great battles. She turned to her parent, curiosity bright in her eyes. Why did the Council think they could enslave humans? The parent, a Pelthani who had fought alongside humans during the liberation, considered the question carefully. They made the same mistake tyrants always make. They mistook humanity's desire for peace as weakness. They didn't understand that humans don't fight because they love war, they fight because they love freedom. And when you threaten what a human loves, you don't face a primitive species. You face a force of nature. The child looked back at the displays. What happened to the Council? They learned that freedom is contagious. Once one species stands up and says no, others follow. The Council fell not because humanity destroyed it, but because all of us together decided we'd rather be free than safe. And once we made that choice, nothing could stop us. Above them, visible through the museum's transparent ceiling, human and alien ships patrolled together. Guardians of a galaxy that had learned its lesson. A galaxy where the old empire was just history. Where slavery was just a memory. Where freedom was the birthright of every sapient being. The galaxy had changed, and it would never go back. Somewhere in deep space, a human patrol encountered another species attempting to build an empire. They were young, aggressive, certain of their superiority. The human commander, a great-granddaughter of Admiral Jinho, sent them a simple message. "This is the Galactic Federation. We don't have empires here anymore. We have democracies. We don't have masters and slaves. We have citizens. Learn from those who came before you. Learn from the Council's mistake. Or learn the hard way why you should never underestimate a free people." The would-be conquerors looked at the Federation fleet, considered their options, and chose wisdom. They came to negotiate, not conquer. Another conflict avoided. Another species joining the great experiment in galactic freedom. And through it all, humanity watched, ready to defend what had been won with so much blood and sacrifice. Ready to fight again if they must. But hoping, always hoping, that they wouldn't have to, because humanity had learned something too. War was easy. Peace was hard. Building was harder than destroying. And keeping freedom required eternal vigilance. But they had paid the price. They knew its value, and they would never let it slip away. The galaxy was free. And it would stay that way.